and a warm welcome to everyone joining us from across the globe today. My name is Pritili Modak, and I am honored to be your host for this session. Our focus today revolves around a deeply profound and transformative theme, Holy Mother Sri Sarada Devi, the benign rebel. We will explore how a gentle, compassionate essence beautifully coexisted with a quiet revolutionary spirit that defied societal norms, shaping spiritual and cultural thought in ways that still resonate deeply today. To guide us through this enlightening exploration, it is my absolute privilege to introduce our distinguished speaker for today, Dr. Sarbani Putatunda. Dr. Putatunda is an acclaimed scholar, a prolific author, and a former faculty member at East Calcutta Girls' College in Kolkata. Holding a PhD in English, she is a deeply respected researcher whose work beautifully bridges the gap worlds of literature, culture, and Indian spiritual thought. There is truly no one better equipped to unpack the layers of Holy Mother's legacy for us today. Without any further delay, I welcome Dr. Sarbani Putatunda to deliver her lecture.
Thank you, Pritili, for the wonderful introduction, though I don't know whether I deserve it all. But anyway, it was pleasant hearing from you. I'm not really an authority to talk on Holy Mother Sarada Devi, but still, today I'll be sharing my perceptions and my experiences while going through Holy Mother's life. So, with that, namaskar and good evening to all the ladies and gentlemen present here. So, before we go into the terrains of Holy Mother, let me offer the prayer which Shami Sharadanandaji had offered to Holy Mother. Yathagne dahika shakti Ramakrishne sthita hiya Sarveshwari Sarvamata Pranamami Muhurmuhu. As the burning power is inherent in fire, so she resides in Sri Ramakrishna, the inseparable, eternal oneness. O Divine Mother, possessor of all power and mother of the world. Just a few days ago, I was fortunate enough to listen to a wonderful discourse from this very platform on Sri Ramakrishna by Professor Dr. Shobuj Sen. Her discourse was about the revolutionary aspect of Sri Ramakrishna's life and personality. She began with a wonderful analogue, and it goes like this. Talking about Sri Ramakrishna is like a blind man's description of an elephant. I feel the same today. With such a meager spiritual capacity, it is really impossible for me to talk about Holy Mother in totality. Yet, I love sharing with all of you my personal realization about the revolutionary aspect of Holy Mother. I, however, prefer to restrict myself to absolute personal perception about Holy Mother and intend to reflect only upon those aspects of her personality which have kept us mesmerized even 160 years after her passing away. I prefer to go regarding her rebellious aspect chronologically, right? That's right, from her childhood till she assumed the mantle of Guru after the passing away of Sri Ramakrishna. So that is how I have gone about it. And we all know about it. It's just a kind of recapitulating the whole thing that we have been reading and studying all these years. Holy Mother's deviation from the other children of Jairambati was palpable right from her childhood. The social norms that prevailed in rural Bengal at that time was religiously followed by everyone because Flouting the social regulations meant community ostracization, we all know. But even as a little girl, Holy Mother silently overrode some of these rulings because she felt them to be regressive in nature. And this was perhaps because she felt that the world and its workings from a very different angle that we perceive it from. She did not consider these detrimental social rulings as something eternal or God ordained, and as if she knew them to be imposed by a few social leaders to serve their narrow purposes. As I have said, I followed a chronological approach in this manner, just for my convenience, from her childhood till she assumed the mantle of Guru. But the interesting aspect of Holy Mother is her rebellion became marked with the passage of time. As she grew, both in her spiritual stature and in age, her rebellion became more and more pronounced. So let's look back to her childhood. In the first thing that we notice as a little girl, Sarada Muni, it was a tremendous urge to learn, a kind of thirst we can call, thirst for knowledge. I don't know, but while going through her life, and this tremendous thirst kind of opened my eyes, and I felt that it was right from her childhood. She sensed the necessity of literacy for women. And unfortunately, we don't have a very detailed account of her childhood activities except excerpts here and there and her own narration. But it is very clear from all those small excerpts and her narration that Holy Mother was strikingly different from the other girls of her age. Girls of that time were not allowed to learn the alphabets, leave alone attain literacy, complete literacy. But Holy Mother did not seem to care about these social prohibitions. Who instigated her to learn the alphabets and enter into the restricted male domain? No one knows. Yet she manifested a rare intelligence and eagerness for learning. Talking about her childhood, Holy Mother once said, in childhood, within quote, in childhood, Proshunna Ramna, that is her cousins, would go to the Pathshala. I used to accompany them sometimes. That is how I learned a little. Quotation closed. It is really hard to believe that living in that remote corner of the world, where girls were pushed into the dungeons of illiteracy and superstition, Holy Mother had such a clear perception about the need for education of women. And she had to discontinue after some time for multiple reasons, which are not mentioned, however, and even Holy Mother doesn't talk about it. But she had to discontinue it, we know. But the quest continued. It was an ever-ending quest. And when she got married and went to stay with her in-laws at Kamarpukur, her quest for knowledge continued. To quote her words, my brothers used to go to school and I would at times accompany them. But after a time, I had to discontinue. Later, when I tried to continue my studies, I had Lakshmi, or Lokhi, that is niece of Sri Ramakrishna, to help me. She would go to school, learn her lessons, and come back and teach me. But one day, Hriday saw us studying. Hriday is another nephew of Sri Ramakrishna. He saw them studying and he grabbed our books and threw them away. Lakshmi, being the daughter of the house, continued her studies, but I quietly got hold of another book about which Hriday wasn't aware. Quotation closed. There was no clear resistance on her part, but a silent protest. By buying another book, whose knowledge was not there with Hriday. Hriday didn't know. Disobedience, we know, was a far cry in her nature. Yet she silently ignored the rulings of the all powerful, self proclaimed, of course, Hriday. If we look back into the social scenario of the 19th century, we realize that Bengali society as a whole was strongly against women's education. And according to the social leaders, literacy for girls meant guaranteed widowhood. Hence, no parents risked their daughters to go to the village pathshalas and become literate. Holy Mother knew this social ruling, yet she simply brushed aside all impediments and tried her best to become literate like her brothers. Later on, while talking about Holy Mother's approach about women's education and empowerment, Sri Manodar Shankar Dasgupta observes, within quote, Holy Mother wanted girls to become self-sufficient and have courage to move about on their own. Look at the two girls from Madras. They are 22 years old, but are not married. They are studying in Nivedita school. How well they are learning various arts. Quotation closed. In fact, one day while talking to Bhavutarini Devi, Holy Mother sorrowfully exclaimed, within quote, living without education is equivalent to death. The girls of our society are all dead. Quotation closed. Wasn't it a kind of silent rebellion against the existing social order that literacy for women guaranteed widowhood? Later, when her disciples and devotees came to her for initiation, Holy Mother manifested this zeal in a more pronounced manner. One day, for instance, a lady approached Holy Mother asking her to bless her daughters to get married early. Holy Mother, instead of blessing them to get married early, advised the mother to send her daughters to Sister Nivedita's school. There they would receive the required education and be happy and self-reliant. To quote her words, you can't get them married. Why worry about it? Send them to Nivedita school. They will be educated and live happily. Quotation closed. Clearly, for Holy Mother, marriage was not the final attainment in a girl's life. It was necessary to educate each one of them and allow her to survive independently. In fact, there are very many instances in Holy Mother's life where we see Holy Mother deliberately empowering women to be on their own, especially the child widows. If we consider the closed patriarchal society of the time, such a revolutionary approach is really unbelievable. Had it happened now, we would placidly exclaim, what's so new about it? But just reflect upon the time span. The second point of interest that struck me while going through Holy Mother's life was her absolute imperviousness to another important social prohibition that entrapped people of the time. We all are aware of the fact that for several years, Sri Ramakrishna remained totally engrossed in his spiritual pursuits. Marriage, domestic life, or his young, beautiful wife at home could hardly disrupt his intensity. In fact, back home at Kamarpukur, neither his mother nor his wife had any inkling about his exact state. The hearsay about him was Godadhar had turned mad. Godadhar was Sri Ramakrishna's name in childhood. Holy Mother remained immersed in deep longing and sorrow because of this hearsay. The villagers of Jairambati took pleasure in tormenting the young bride by feigning sympathy. Sad, poor Sarada is married to a mad groom. She bore the pain alone, and finally, after 6 years of intense pain, she decided to visit her husband. Her argument was very clear. If he is truly sick, then as his wife, I should be beside him, tending him to the path of recovery. But going to Dakshineshwar was not an easy matter as it seems now. There were several barriers. First of all, she needed paternal support to undertake the journey. But how could she admit her feelings to her parents? Wouldn't it appear rather unseemly? Second, would it look good for a spouse to visit her husband uninvited? Wouldn't the social pundits term the act as utter shamelessness? Third, and the most important, and I think the most vital point was, by that time, Sri Ramakrishna had already assumed Shunnash. Would he allow her to stay beside him without compromising his Shunnash vow? Within quote, she knew that he had taken monastic vows from Totapuri in 1864. A monk renounces his family and his wife. She had perhaps expected to be rejected. Quotation closed. Yet she came to him. She dared to risk refusal. What guts! And guts of her 17-year-old bride. Holy Mother seemed absolutely impervious to all these hindrances. The gossips could not shatter her faith in Sri Ramakrishna. Hence, unlike the ladies of her time, instead of giving up hope and lamenting her fate, she decided to assist Sri Ramakrishna to recuperate. A kind of inert positivity helped her to flout the existing social norm. That is, a girl ought not to go to her husband unasked. Unflinchingly, she reversed the social order and went to meet Sri Ramakrishna on her own without awaiting any kind of invitation. And interestingly, Sri Ramakrishna joyously welcomed her with only one word of sadness. Within quote, had you come a little bit early, Mathur Babu would be there to take good care of you. Quotation closed. No censuring, no refusal, and no backlash. No wonder Swami Sharadanandaji says, Ramakrishna sthita hiya. With age and experience, this rebelliousness grew more pronounced. Previously, when she remained the silent wife of Sri Ramakrishna, she never uttered a word about caste and racial discriminations. But when she assumed the role of a guru, she made her stand absolutely clear. It was during Jagadhatri Puja, Holy Mother vehemently protested against the discriminatory practice. Within quote, can a devotee be discriminated by his caste? In this wretched world of ours, we discriminate men and women on the basis of their caste. I wish I could do away with it. Closed. Such a statement coming out of the mouth of a supposedly illiterate woman can be believed. And how did she diplomatically handle it is worth mentioning here. Next morning, she asked one of her disciple monks to get a substantial number of jalebis for breakfast. After offering them to Sri Ramakrishna, she sent them to her disciples with a vessel full of puffed rice. All would eat from the same container, blowing away caste barriers to the winds. It sounds really incredible, yet it is true. Had it been Sri Chaitanya or even Sri Ramakrishna, we would accept it as something normal. But from Holy Mother, in fact, there are several other instances when we see her accepting a devotee impervious of his or her low caste or race. There was the famous dacoit Amjad who frequented Holy Mother. Once, when a lady protested, saying he was a social outcast, Holy Mother firmly replied, in quote, both Amzad and Shorot are my sons. Quotation closed. Shorot was Shami Sharadanandu, the then General Secretary of Ramakrishna Math and Mission, a spiritual stalwart and a great scholar, while Amzad was a notorious dacoit. But to Holy Mother, both were her sons. So how could she discriminate one from the other? If this is not rebellion, then what is? Even while meeting the so-called Mlecchu disciples of Shamiji, Margaret Noble and Josephine MacLeod, she expressed her unbiased love. She sat with them, ate with them, and welcomed them as her own daughter. And just visualize the scene of 19th century Bengal, a widow and accepting a Mleccho girl as her own daughter, eating with them, sharing the seat, and affectionately patting them. Margaret Noble was her cookie, who even stayed with her at Mother's house. Yet, when Margaret Noble wanted to visit Jairambati, Holy Mother categorically discouraged her. The villagers would not accept her Mleccho daughter as their own. Instead, they would treat her as a pariah and maybe insult her too. So she was not unaware of the social repercussions. Yet in her personal life, she never conformed to these narrow and mean practices. She was well aware, clearly she was well aware of these narrow boundaries existing in the village. She was well aware that what she could openly practice in the city would not be allowed within the narrow boundaries of a village. And that continued. So better not take the risk and break the heart of her cookie. On another occasion, when Sister Nivedita offered cooked prasad to Sri Ramakrishna and brought it to Holy Mother, she gladly extended her hand and accepted it. When a lady disciple protested that being a non-Brahmin, Sister Nivedita was not entitled to offer cooked items as prasad, Holy Mother nonchalantly replied, "She is my daughter. I will have it. She can offer anything to him. I will accept it as prasad. Whoever decides otherwise can have her own way." This regard to caste and racial barrier far exceeded even Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna, we know, was very choosy about the food that was offered to him. There was the incident, we know, where a lady had touched his plate of food which Holy Mother was carrying. And Sri Ramakrishna initially refused to have the food, asking Holy Mother why she allowed that lady to touch the plate. Holy Mother just looked at him and said, "I cannot refuse anyone who calls me a mother." Then Sri Ramakrishna said, "Promise me this will not happen again." Holy Mother shook her head and said, "I cannot promise that. Thakur, I cannot promise that. Whoever addresses me as mother and asks me for something, I cannot refuse." And strangely enough, despite all his choosiness, Sri Ramakrishna just bowed his head down, acknowledging this tremendous power of this apparently innocuous lady, and started having his food. So that was the rebellion, which we see clearly in Holy Mother, but in a very mellowed down, a very benign form. And if we look at her life, we would see that if it was possible for her to shatter other similar evil practices of the society, she would do it. It is only that she never wanted to do away with all the social practices because that would lead to a kind of social disruption. Even Sri Ramakrishna, for that matter, didn't do that, but he brought about subtle changes. Whereas Holy Mother's subtle changes were not subtle actually, they were quite devastating in various ways. Her mellowed profile and soft voice never gave away the extent of power to rebel. Only on a few rare occasions, disciples and devotees got a glimpse of the tremendous power underlying her benign exterior. This is a very interesting incident that I'm going to recapitulate, which all of us know, but then I would love to recollect it again. One evening at Mother's house, writes a lady disciple, she had gone to meet Holy Mother. Holy Mother was sitting on the veranda turning her rosary. The lady sat beside her. Suddenly, tremendous howling was heard from the shanty in front of Mother's house. Both Holy Mother and the lady looked down from the veranda and saw a man beating his wife mercilessly. The reason behind this violence was that girl had failed to cook his food on time. Holy Mother, contrary to her usual behavior, that soft-spokenness, grew livid and started rebuking the man in a loud voice. "Oh man, you will kill the girl." It was her voice was so loud, the entire inmates of the house, Holy Mother's house, including Shami Sarada Nandaji, they were struck by the voice and they came running to see what had happened. But that single sentence was enough to stop the violence of the man. He looked up at Holy Mother and withdrew. As we know, the wonderful comparison is there in Mother's Gospel of Holy Mother, as if charmed by the chanting of a snake charmer. All the inmates of the Mother's house remained spellbound at this manifestation of Holy Mother's wrath. Previously, when Holy Mother spoke about womanly manners and etiquette, she stressed the need of maintaining a soft and a low profile. But on that day, she established the basic truth. Evil should be rebuffed at all costs, irrespective of the expected mellowed exterior. Her rebellious tirade continued even against the unjustified social customs which the widows, particularly the child widows of the time, were subjected to. Looking at the emaciated figure of a lady disciple, Holy Mother said, within quote, "You have done enough of penance. As a widow, you have been forced to eat only one meal a day. Stop doing that. In the evening, offer food to Thakur and eat them as prasad. There is nothing wrong in it. If your body is wasted, how can you pursue the spiritual path? So enough of it." Quotation closed. The lady was overwhelmed at this concern of Holy Mother. Prohibiting a child widow from leading a normal life was the norm of the day. But to Holy Mother, this was a social evil which had to be eradicated. Many child widows who received the blessings of Holy Mother were thus saved from similar miseries. Holy Mother's words silenced not only the social leaders but also helped the ladies concerned to be more empowered in the long run. Holy Mother's presence emboldened them to question and think rationally. So it was a silent but very potential development for the women folks of our country. Talking about the sad plights of child widows because of inhuman social customs, Holy Mother clearly stated that there was an urgent need to change these social rules forced upon the widows. Her vision can thus be mentioned at par with the state attainments of both Raja Ram Mohan Rai and Ishwar Chandra Vidyashagar. One stopped the practice of Shoti, the other introduced widow remarriage. While our Holy Mother, despite her garb of illiteracy and rusticity, made pronouncements as powerful as theirs, clearly initiating a revolutionary change in the society. The most remarkable aspect of Holy Mother, which strikes me hard, is her defiance of certain social values, which we term as morality. It is not that she encouraged licentiousness in the name of love, but to her, true love is something divine and had to be acknowledged and respected. One can cite several instances to prove this revolutionary thinking of Holy Mother, which was in sharp contrast to Sri Ramakrishna. For instance, praising a man for taking care of his sick mistress, or helping a mistress to bring back her wayward lover with statements like, "You have accepted her services all these years and now you cannot leave her like this," never failed to impress us even now. I cannot just stop myself from recollecting one of these two incidents. As a lady disciple writes, Holy Mother used to look at the underprivileged inhabitants of the shanty which stood in front of Mother's house with great love and affection. One day, while looking at them, she pointed at a man carrying his sick mistress. Within quote, "He nursed her with such great devotion. I have never before seen anything like it. He has shown a real spirit of service." Closed. She began to speak highly of the devotion of this man. The idea of mistress would certainly have made us turn up our noses in disgust. How often we fail to recognize goodness when veiled in an evil garb. But as mentioned above, these are just a few rare flashes of Holy Mother's revolutionary thinking. Most of the time, they were manifested when Holy Mother noticed injustices or atrocities being committed against the marginalized section of the society, women, the backward class, or the other race, etc. In both cases, the girls were at the receiving end, and society was being unjustly harsh upon them. What else could Holy Mother do other than support them? Normally, she never manifested this revolutionary spirit in her day-to-day life. But when occasion arose, she never stopped herself. So with that note, I think we end today's discussion. And I know I have missed out a lot because there are so many other things, so many other instances where we see this revolutionary aspect of rebellion, benign rebellion of Holy Mother, which is not within the purview of this short lecture. But anyway, I would love to continue with it later on, if time permits.
Yes, you can continue.
Okay. There is another incident which I have mentioned briefly, that she was at Kualpara, Holy Mother was at Kualpara, when a girl came running to her. she was kind of completely boycotted by the society at large. Why? Because she had fallen in love with a person and she had renounced her own family to live with him. After several years, this man left this girl for another girl. And this girl had no means to survive on her own. So she came running to Holy Mother, asking for help. The mother, how can I survive? Now this person has renounced me. I have renounced the family. The society looks down upon me and they will not allow me to survive. What do I do? Holy Mother just looked at her and asked her disciple to fetch the man who had renounced her for another woman. The man came. Holy Mother just looked at him and said, as I mentioned, you have accepted her services for so long, and now if you give her up, you will be committing a grave sin. So take her back. And the man, without uttering a single word, bowed his head down and took back the girl. So these are the things which apparently kind of confuses us. So was Holy Mother actually sanctioning these socially illicit relationships? Was she giving them a license to continue? A man with this serving his mistress, or a mistress living with her paramour? It kind of confuses her. Then what kind of a guru was she? She was cultivating these viewpoints, which was completely in violation with the social norms. I don't know what you feel. I would love to share your viewpoints. But while going through Holy Mother's life and other spiritual stalwarts, other saints, one thing which Swami Gomirananda ji has repeatedly said while talking about Holy Mother is, it is the mind that is very, very important. It is the purity and sincerity of your mind that is very, very important. Marriage or widowhood or whatever it is, these are socially inflicted rules upon us. They don't really matter if you are a man or a woman with a pure heart. So it is that purity that matters. And on several occasions in Holy Mother's life, we have observed that. There was that lady who used to frequent Dakshineshwar Mandir. She was a woman of ill repute, but then she had grown old and she grew very close to Holy Mother. Sri Ramakrishna one day noticed it and he was very disturbed. And he came and said, why do you talk to her? Don't you know that she is a woman of doubtful character? Holy Mother looked and said, but she has grown old. Now she talks only about God and spiritual things. No, you shouldn't talk with her. Sri Ramakrishna insisted. She simply refused and said, no, I can't do that. She calls me mother. She addresses me as mother. I cannot simply refuse her. And now that she has not committed anything wrong, how do I give her up? Sri Ramakrishna didn't utter a word and just walked back. Then again that quotation comes back. Ramakrishna Sitehiya, they are inseparable. Sri Ramakrishna was trying to inflict the social rules and Holy Mother was simply blowing it off. I cannot. Society may say whatever they want. But as a mother, as a pathfinder, I cannot refuse such things. And even when we go as a guru, when we notice her, unlike Sri Ramakrishna, she welcomed any and everybody who came to her for initiation. In fact, at one point of time, Swami Premananda had remarked, the people whom we do not dare to initiate, Holy Mother gladly accepts them. Hers is infinite power, and she can digest all their sins. If we believe in Guru Shishya Parampara, then we know that Guru is there to absolve the sin of the disciple. And Holy Mother absorbed all of them, whoever came to her. Sri Ramakrishna was very, very choosy about the selection of disciples. We all know. In fact, I'm just recollecting the thoughts. But Holy Mother welcomed everybody. There were only, I think, 3 or 4 instances when Holy Mother refused to initiate a person. Whoever came to her at whatever point of time, Holy Mother welcomed them and initiated them. So that was a kind of silent way of registering her protest, that I need not follow the rules laid out by the society. And incidentally, not only the society, as I mentioned before, Holy Mother even flouted Sri Ramakrishna's rulings. Otherwise, she wouldn't have said, Thakur, I cannot refuse a person who addresses me as a mother. You are Thakur for everybody, and you must behave accordingly. I cannot refuse a person who calls me mother. So that way, despite her very mellowed down, very soft exterior, she had that steely nerve to defy even Sri Ramakrishna. But strangely, Sri Ramakrishna never countered her. Sri Ramakrishna accepted it, that here is a very, very powerful personality. I better not counter her, better not disturb her in her way of thinking. So I think with that note, we can conclude. And any other observation which you'd like to share with me, I would be only too glad.